part where we talk about almost on a regular basis on this program about why does it look so difficult for us to deploy technology? We have very well-read people in government, out of government, running the power companies. You had the privilege of being in government. And what is the problem? Why can't we deploy this technology?
Well, I think it is. Some of it may be funding. I mean, I don't want to be answering to the people who are responsible, but I think that some of that may be funding, some of that may be devising the plan that will address this.
Does it seem to you that we have more technology away from power, or just as an aside, because sometimes I've actually read and seen in the news where some issues that has to do with technology has been rejected wholesale by people that should have actually embraced it? Is it that?
No, but this is standard now, because you have to understand that in reforming the sector, we met a lot of resistance, and a good amount of that resistance has to do with resisting technology, because technology opens up to transparency, and transparency is something people don't want. Though I'm not talking in general. I'm not talking about the gas pipelines. I'm just talking in general. I mean, prepaid meter is a good example. There was significant resistance to having prepaid meter because it provides an agreement between you, the producer or supplier of power, and the consumer. And there's accountability, and it's very clear. And people who are supplying didn't want to have that.
Those who suggest that maybe not too far away from corruption issues, could they be right? Could they have a point?
It's corruption. Of course it's corruption. I mean, we don't have to put bandage on it. It's a corruption.
Because there's no reason why we shouldn't deploy this technology.
Well, I'm not talking about the pipeline now. I'm just talking about in terms of like the prepaid meters. It's all about corruption.
You know, I don't think that because by the time you left office, there was this controversy brewing as to whether or not you resigned or you were asked to resign. You know, do you wish to clarify the reasons you left?
Well, what you should know is that when you're doing reform, you're going to have a lot of resistance, and the resistance will be fighting you. I mean, rather, the system will fight you if you're trying to do reform. If you listen to the former president of Georgia yesterday, he resigned and then had to ask the people to determine whether he should come back. So if you're going to do it, you have to have been prepared to go whenever the time comes, at any time. Because if you're going to be transparent and you want to do what is right, that's just the way it is supposed to be. So I won't get into the details of anything, but I would say that's just what has to happen. You have to be prepared to go if you're going to do reform.
Do you have any regrets?
No, I'm none.
Do you think that you could have done anything better? Because I also know that you had a running battle with Labour, which never just went away. Do you think that you could have handled something differently?
Never. I would approach it the same way, because you have to get the Labour to understand that this is a country, and that the country is greater than those who are trying to prevent us from moving forward. And so I have no other way than to do what I did.
Can we really get out of this darkness?
I am sure that we will get out of this situation.
But one thing they did, which was supposed to lead us to getting out of it, was privatization.
Yes.
Some have said, what we now have are regional autonomy.
Yes.
What do you say about the way it was done? Was that the best way?
Well, power is a natural monopoly system for a while, until you have adequate power. That's when you can have choices. But for now, we are not at that point. And so privatization actually is supposed to lead to this, and it will. It's just that we have to, the Regulatory Commission and the Ministry of, well, the government needs to ensure that the policy set in place will continue, that the regulator is ensuring that people play according to rules and agreements, and that's very, very critical that we get there. It may take some time, but we will surely get there through the private sector intervention.
So you remain optimistic as to the path the government has taken so far, even after your exit?
I am optimistic, yes.
Okay.
Well, we also have questions coming to you from Quadri. I think we talked about this. It was saying we should ask you to explain about the meaning of fixed charge attached to power bill in Nigeria. We talked about this on
yeah, I think the Regulatory Commission, the way power, you have a capacity charge, okay, which is like you have an agreement with the power company that you will take a certain quantum of power, and that amount you will always pay, whether you are taking it or not. It's like you have agreed that you will take this power. Then you have the charge associated with what you actually consume. It's just the normal way it's done everywhere in the world, because otherwise the power company will go broke.
Exactly. Some people argue that that's no incentive. I mean, that in itself provides the incentive for power companies not to deliver.
No, it's not enough for them to survive at all.
Well, I wanted to take this from Shola Oluwadare. He says, Professor Nnaji, how can we compel the discos to install prepaid meters, because that is how they can improve on their services?
The public advocacy, public should advocate. There should be, and also the Regulatory Commission. If people keep complaining, it will get to the Regulatory Commission to do something, because the Regulatory Commission has the capacity to actually get them to do something.
I mean, speaking about these investments at the generation, distribution, and transmission level, we know that the government still handles the transmission end. If the investments in the discos and gencos increase, as we expect it will, the concern now, the question people have is, what about investment in transmission areas? Is it at the same pace?
No, not yet, but it should be. Not yet. And so that's a real constraint. There should be more investment in transmission. Because we had even planned that there should be a super grid 765 kV network, which should really open up the transmission space. And it doesn't have to be government, really. Government should enable it to happen. The government, in collaboration with private sector, can do that kind of investment. So we don't always have to think that government should be doing all these investments. Government can create the environment that allows for private sector to come in to do the investment.
From the look of things now, questions are still streaming in. Well, Henry says, he says, you did your best on power reform, and they're grateful for that. They thank you for that also. But he says, ever since you left, it looks as if a lot has changed and vandals have gone in. That if you were still there, that would you still have handled things the same way?
Well, I would have handled it the way I was handling things. That's all I would say. Sorry, I never ever comment on people who have taken over from me when I'm in government. So
I noticed that because so why is that so?
Well, it's because it's not good to the government. I mean, government is like a stage. When you are there, you do what you do your own way. When somebody else is there, you let the person to act. So going to just meddle in how the person acts is just not right. It's not correct.
There are genuine people out there who really want to learn from the experience about.
I can talk to them privately about how things can be done, but I'm not going to come to public space and talk about it. I will not.
Qatar talks about Mambila. He says, from his perspective, Mambila seems to exist only on paper. Is that the case?
Well, I am not sure whether the agreement has been signed, but it was very close to the point of signing, to the point of completion of the processes that will lead to signing by the time I left. So, but being on paper means that there is no agreement. But if there's agreement, it means that that the companies should get started with the work. But mark you, it takes quite a while for it to be done. Minimum 6 years. Yes,
Why
minimum
is that,
6 years. Because you have to move the people out of that area, okay, and relocate them. There are people, quite a lot of people living there. They have to move because that whole place will be water in no time. And then before you begin to do development work. So it takes a while.
Sorry, Chairman.
Let's just say minimum 5 years, but
wow.
It can be.
I've been thinking solar energy.
Yeah.
Is that also sustainable?
Solar is not you can't just say you're going to use solar for the only solution. Solar should be part of the solution. Okay. Definitely part of the solution, okay. Especially as the price is crashing.
Okay, let's take a quick break, Prof. We'll be back and take one or two more comments and then we'll wrap it up. So please join us again. Back our concluding moments now with Professor Barth Nnaji. We've got this question from Aseda. He says, why are the gas-powered plants not situated in areas close to where we have gas, considering the challenge we have with vandalism?
Well, some of the gas-power plants were politically cited, okay, particularly the NIPP power plants. They were intended to give support to the oil-producing areas. So they were cited throughout the Niger Delta and some in the like Ogun State. We had one, then we had a motor show. We have just in the those are the only areas that you may say don't have are not part of it, but really intended political site of power plants.
Where do you have the predominant situation of gas?
In the Niger Delta region. Gas is in Niger Delta, but also you have some that are some non-associated gas in Anambra Basin, not explored now. So you have both inland and offshore. Most of the gas coming from ExxonMobil is offshore in Akwa Ibom area. So gas is all over in Nigeria, really. But we are not harnessing them as much.
Okay, well, this is where we had to let it go today. Thank you very much indeed. Professor Barth Nnaji is a former Minister of Power. Well, not many remember that he's also a former Minister of Science and Technology. He's also the Chief Executive Officer of Geometric Power. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're back in just a moment. Join us again.